Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. And today I'll be doing my first ever Cobra Kai video, and we'll be talking about the Sekai Taikai or the Sekai Taikai and who I think will win the tournament. So let's get into it. Okay, so before I theorize who I think will win the tournament, I wanted to discuss what I somewhat hope the tournament turns out to be. And starting off, I think that Season 6 will be building up to the tournament with everyone training kind of like how they were in Season 4. But since we don't know that much about the Sekai Taikai, except that it's the greatest karate tournament in the world, we can only speculate the match types. So what I'm hoping for is that we see every student have their time to shine, whether they are series regulars like Miguel and Robbie or their fodder-like characters kind of like Nate and Bert. And unlike the All Valley in Season 4, I hope we actually see some full matches with our main characters because, for example, when Tori and Devin were having their match, it was a 15-second fight if I remember. We only saw Tori score those 2 points on Devin, and then she won. And even with Dimitri in his fight, we only saw him score 1 point and he won his match. We didn't actually see the full match. So I'd like to see some full-on matches. And to go along with everyone having their spotlight time, I'd like to keep the system in the All Valley that they already have, such as the skills competition and the kata competition I think that they had in the All Valley in Season 4. And of course they'll have their 3-point matches, but more on that later. And however, they should of course do this in 2 divisions. So of course they'll have the male and female divisions, but there would be tiers to this. So for example, the A tiers would belong to the strongest students like Miguel, Eli, Robbie, Sam, and Tori. B tier would belong to people like Dimitri, but some people consider him A tier now. And then you'll have people like Chris and Devin that go into that tier. And then people like Kenny, Kyler, Piper will probably fit in this tier if they do come back next season, but I don't understand how that might be possible with the whole ending for Season 5. And we'll just decide there, maybe Sensei Kim takes over Cobra Kai and she kind of makes everybody into A tier characters or brings her own characters in the season, but that's a separate video for a different day. But finally, there are the C tier characters where we have people like Nate and Bert, where they belong because they don't stand a chance against anybody above their tier. But also in these tiers would also be students from other dojos, since of course it is a world karate tournament. And maybe just for fun, we could even see some of the senseis go against each other because, why not? It would be really fun. But when it comes down to the championship fights, I think it's about time they ditch the 3-point system or the 3-point fight system, because although, it's fine, we've already seen that since the OG movies. And it would feel a little repetitive to have them, do the 3-point system again, especially because we had that in Season 4, we had that in Season 1, and we've been having it all this time, so it kind of would feel a little repetitive to do that again in the World Tournament. So you're probably thinking, if they ditch the 3-point system, what type of system would we have? And that's actually a great question. And to answer it, I think that the writers should turn to a different system, which, I don't know if you guys have seen the show Kicking It. It's a Disney Channel show that, I think aired exactly, I think maybe 10-11 years ago. Even though I recommend it, it is corny and it is funny, and that's also very cringy at the same time, but it was still very fun. But back to the main point, in Kicking It, when the characters have fights or there's a tournament, there's no 3-point system based on what I can remember, but instead the fight keeps happening until the opponent is either down for the count or they yield or submit. Now if the Sekai Taikai adopts this method, I think it'll give the tournament a breath of fresh air, to say, basically. And now that I'm done theorizing on how the Sekai Taikai will play out, I think it's time to get back to the original purpose of the video, which is who will win the tournament. And to do this, I'll give my top 3 predictions, which will be the most likely candidate, the fairly possible candidate, and the least likely candidate. Now, starting with the most likely character to win the male division in the All Valley, I'm talking about the championship here, the ultimate winner, it's probably going to be Miguel, in my opinion, perhaps 8 out of 10 times. And the reason why I think this is because Miguel is the new generation Karate Kid at this point. Well, he's always been since the series started, and he's the strongest student in the show, at least from my opinion, because as we saw last season, out of the big 3 between Eli, Robbie, and Miguel, I personally think that Miguel was at the bottom, and then Eli and Robbie were interchangeable, because John even said that the match could have gone either way. And as we see in their match last season, They both had opportunities to finish the match, but they just couldn't do it until Eli finally got the upper hand. And then we see that Miguel's fight, that Miguel actually beats Robbie. I just think that because Miguel is now at his A game, he's not being nerfed by some back injury or some confidence issues. Most experienced, he's the most skilled. So I think that out of all the male characters who have a shot of winning this thing, I think Miguel would probably win it. And since this might be the last season, I know the creators have said that they want to do maybe a couple more, but since there's only a handful of plot points left to cover, all the loose ends have pretty much been tied up except a few, and everybody's pretty much reconciled. I would definitely see that if this was the last season, that Miguel would start the show being the All Valley champion and then ending the show with him being the world champion. And then on the girls division, most likely Sam, because she is the best female fighter, unless someone from a different dojo beats her. But right now I just don't see Tori beating her unless she's training with Chosen. Miguel and Sam, probably win most likely in their divisions. And moving on to the fairly possible scenario or situation or candidate, I think this will be Robbie, because if you really think about it, hopefully I don't go on a rant here, but in every single season, Robbie always suffers from a physical, mental, or an emotional block. Just some examples. In season 1, he was a better fighter between him and Miguel, and he only lost because Miguel cheated. Even when he was handicapped, he was still doing pretty good against Miguel until Miguel started using his injury against him. In season 2, I just think that Robbie was overall emotionally unbalanced this entire season, with his anger against Johnny, Miguel, Cobra Kai, and probably some resentment towards his mother getting in the way. In the entire season, you can see he's kind of off a little bit, and overall he's just a mess this season. And then in the school fight, it was kind of his breaking point when he finds out that Sam cheated on him with Miguel, and then Miguel uses that to his advantage along with his relationship with Johnny, which causes Robbie to overall, kind of flip the switch from his Miyagi-Do techniques and then resort to anger. And one thing that I picked up from the show is that anger and negative emotions mixed with Miyagi-Do does not work out. It kind of nerfs the user, in my opinion. So this caused Robbie to lose the fight, technically, since Miguel did neutralize him. Season 3 doesn't really count because he's fighting against Johnny. He's just kind of going against him with blind, but still he's not really balanced this season overall, because he's still resorting to those Cobra Kai techniques, even though it seems like a part of him is still relying on that Miyagi-Do side of him. But then it all clears up the end of season 4 after he sees, Kenny, being corrupted by Cobra Kai. And then in season 5 is really irritating for me, because I kind of wish that him and Miguel were actual equals this season. But kind of like how, Daniel and Johnny were, how they were equals, but it just seems that wasn't the case. Overall, I just think season 5, Robbie was still, unbalanced in the beginning of the season, because he's still carrying that guilt and regret. But I think at this point, at the very end of the season, the very last few minutes of the season of season 5, I think this is a completely different Robbie, because now he's reconciled with Johnny, he's reconciled with Miguel, he's with Daniel, he's with Chosen. If we get that Robbie and we have him reconciled with Kenny, and then he goes into the Sekai Taikai, I don't think there's anything holding him back from using his full potential, which I think, in my opinion, is stronger than everybody else in the show. But I just don't see anything holding Robbie back, so he should come up on top and actually win the world championship. Now for the least likely situation. For this one, I think the only option here is by coming to the conclusion that none of the MCs will actually win the tournament, because when we really think about it, Miguel and Robbie, at least from the show's timeline, which is a little weird because they're still in 2018 or 2019, I believe, but based off what we see in the show, Miguel and Robbie have only been training for about 2 years at the max, I think. And then you have Sam, who's kind of in the middle, who's been training ever since she was younger. Then she stopped for a long period of time, and then she just started getting back into it. And then you also have people like Devin and Kenny, who have been training less than 6 months. So with this information in mind, going against their opponents who are from, the world, I'm pretty sure, probably in China, Korea, even different parts of probably Europe and, South America or something like that. Since it's the world, championship for karate, I just see their opponents being stronger than them, more experienced than them, more skilled than they are. And realistically, I don't see them actually winning against any of their other opponents, because that's unrealistic. But in this show, you have to kind of, take realism out the show. But yeah, those are my theories on how the Sekai Taikai might work out, or who will win the tournament. And my bad that this video was probably all over the place. But if you guys would like, be sure to let me know who you think might win the tournament in the comments, as well as any additional things that you would like to see in the tournament, as well as any Cobra Kai videos that you guys would like me to do, because I do have a couple on my list that I would like to do in the near future. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want, make sure you like, subscribe, share this video with a friend who loves Cobra Kai, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until then, peace out.